Hello and welcome. This is Eagle Eye 621, and what you see behind me is a very simple ice farm. This ice tray you see behind me really doesn't take more than a stack or so of blocks to make, and it's so simple you can probably see everything there is to it and don't even need to stick around for the build tutorial, but do stick around as I will be going over a couple of tips and tricks and some bonus little information to make setting this up that much easier and the utilization of this farm just that much better. Before I get into that, let me point out that most of you are still not subscribers, and it really does help out the channel. If you would just take a second to click that button and ring that bell, it would be greatly appreciated. So now let's talk about this ice, and really, as I said, you can pretty much see everything there is to it right now. When you build it, do make sure to build it out of a block like wood or wool or even something like dirt, which is not capable of being insta-mined, because our first little trick, when you're grabbing that ice, you do have a couple of choices, but you do want to make sure that you pick the right ones. You can see right here we have an efficiency 2 pickaxe and an efficiency 3, both of these diamond. We also have an efficiency 2 netherite pickaxe and also an efficiency 3. And then we have some depth strider boots for both. Now these really don't matter. Let's find out if these matter right here by going into survival mode. And now you can see that in survival mode we have this efficiency 2 pickaxe, and you can see it's not silk touch, so we're not going to get the ice, but not worry about it. And you can see it does take a little bit to mine. Now as for this efficiency 3 diamond pickaxe, you can see we do have the insta-mine effect, which is what you're looking for to make it that much easier. And then trying to walk around in this water, very irritating and very slow, unless you have a nice pair of Depth Strider 3 boots on. All of a sudden it's a lot better. Now, does the efficiency 2 matter if it's on netherite? And the answer is no. Efficiency 2 is still not enough. You do need that efficiency 3, even on your netherite, for that very nice insta-mining sound. Let's go back into creative mode here. So what you really want, and this is just a structure block in order to refill that ice faster than it normally would, is you are going to want some efficiency at least 3. Of course, the higher the better. And silk touch is also important, or else you will not get that ice. These are just some perfect tools. And then you are going to want a pair of boots that have Depth Strider 3 on them as well. And I'll have some iCards up in the corner of your screen, as well as some links to perfect weapons. These, of course, are the diamond version, the perfect tools, as well as your perfect armor. And I'll have some links, as I said, for those. And now, if we go back into survival mode and put on our boots, we have our efficiency and silk touch diamond pickaxe. Now you can see we are getting a nice amount of ice, if I don't step on that. And you can just blast through all this ice. If you're swimming, you don't get that insta-mine. Do make sure that you are back on the ground. Then you can wander around and pick up all of your ice. And some of it, I think, even fell off the side. Let's go back into creative mode and see if that was just a visual thing or we do have some missing ice. Maybe you guys will tell me I'm just not seeing it on camera, but you can see we have about a stack and a third just from this relatively small area. The inside water measurement is a 10 by 10 cube. So you do want to build this somewhere within your loaded range from your main base. You can have it towards the outskirts if you don't want to look at it. And also do be sure to build this in the proper biome and area. Now, the easiest way to know whether or not ice will form is to look for snow. Anywhere that the rain in your world turns to snow and you do end up with these snow layers on the ground, is somewhere that the water source blocks will turn to ice. So now let's talk about building it. Let's get rid of this, and let's look in this chest. Not a heck of a lot of surprise here. You're going to want whatever blocks you want to use. I like to use some slabs and some wooden blocks, as well as 2 water buckets. Now I will give you a note of caution. While you can build this out of whatever material you want, as ultimately what's holding the water isn't really that important, you do want to keep in mind that at some point in your world you will get an efficiency 5 pickaxe and you will have a haste 2 beacon in your base. You do not want to make the material something that is insta-mineable by those. If you make this whole thing out of stone, for example, you may find as you are mining up all of your ice, you're also destroying your ice tray. So do use something like wood, something like wool, anything that is not capable of being insta-mined by an efficiency 5 diamond pickaxe or netherite pickaxe, even with a haste 2 beacon. Now I'm going to build this all off the ground just for ease, but also keep in mind in survival, you're going to want to make sure that you can actually get to your farm without too much difficulty. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to build a relatively small one, and that's about a good size. So I'm going to make an inside block, and you do want to make this a square just to make it a little bit simpler. So I'm going to make this a 5. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, and then again 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then hopefully these close. And this again is a very, very tiny version. You can make this as big as you want. And then I'm going to use some bottom slabs to make my outside, just because I think it looks a little bit nicer. And you want to go all the way around and all the way around. Now on the inside, you're going to put some bottom half slabs in a diagonal line from one corner to the other, and then you're going to want to waterlog all of those slabs, and that will turn all of the rest of this ice tray into water source blocks. And that's because of the way that water spreads. That's why we wanted this diagonal right here. You can already see that water is starting to form. Now let me load this back up. You will notice that the inside of this does not turn to ice, and that's because a waterlogged block can't turn to ice. And it's important that this line right here never does turn to ice, or else when you come through and you mine everything, you will also collect your water sources, and there's nothing for the blocks to be refilled by if that water source isn't there. So you can see that these are all water sources again, which allow for the ice to form. And if this water was not here, you'd find yourself needing to place back that water every single time, which would get super irritating. Now as I go through and I break these, there is something to pay attention to in terms of the larger versions that you build, and that is that the ice can only form connected to another block. So that is to say that this block right here, which is surrounded on all 4 sides by water, can't form ice. Ice will only form when it's connected to another non-water block. So you see the ice formed here because this block is not water. And now that this one is formed, this block, and this block can also turn into ice, as you saw. So if your farm is on the larger side and you want to visit your farm more frequently, you may want to consider dropping an ice cube or 2 right in the center. And that will allow the ice to spread from these as well, so that it's spreading both from the outside in and from the middle out. And that will just generate the ice a little bit faster if you want to make more frequent trips up here. As you can see, we do have that ice forming on something this small. There's no reason to do that because everything is pretty much connected, and the amount of time savings you get isn't really worth it for the reduction in your overall collection. So you can make these things as big as you want. Just keep in mind a couple of seed blocks in the middle may be useful if they get much bigger than this one. And even this 10 by 10 interior may be worth dropping a block or two on either side just to speed that up. Much smaller, you don't really need it any larger, and it really is something that you should consider doing. Now, it's important to note that this does need to be built somewhere that does have sky access. If you have a block above your water source, it will not turn into ice. And that does bring me to maybe the last tip of this video. If you're playing in a version that does not allow for these waterlogged blocks, the way that I used to do this is with some fences. Of course, you can pick any block you want. I just wanted something that was non-spawnable. And you go in the same diagonal line, but you want to go maybe 2 blocks up just so you can walk underneath it without any issues. And you want to make the diagonal using the fence or whatever block it is that you've chosen. And with the block directly above this water source, even if this half slab wasn't here, then you would not have your ice forming, and you would still keep that channel in the middle to allow for you to get that water back. Now, I actually do have one other thing to make note of, and that is to be careful about your light levels, because light will melt ice. It will also prevent it from forming. So you could see that was pretty instant. It's not always that instant, where the light level will melt that ice, and obviously if it will melt ice, it does prevent the ice from forming. So do be careful with your light levels, as well as making sure to maintain that sky access. That does of course mean that this can have some mob potential if you build it and you keep some of these blocks, like these are bottom half slabs, but you can't really light up this area because it'll prevent your ice from forming. So keep that in mind if you're coming out here at night. You may want to come out in the morning. And then also underneath, you can light this area up. If you don't, you may find yourself facing a creeper or something the next time you go to collect your ice. And that really is all there is to it. Now, I do need to give a quick shout out here. This design is something I haven't actually seen before, but that's not because this is a new concept. This concept is many years old. Nobody's done this as far as I know in terms of the waterlogged slabs, but the concept of a nice big flat square with some fence posts or something else above it, as I said, has been done many years ago. The earliest version I saw is a video by Exumavoid all the way back in 2016, so I will give a link back out to that video. I know in that video he credits somebody that sent him a link on Twitter, so feel free to head on over, drop a like over there, find the original Twitter user and give him a nice little shout out. And that's really all there is to it. If you found this video helpful, I would appreciate a like. If you found it interesting, maybe even share it with one of your friends. And for more videos like this, do be sure to subscribe. You can also note that YouTube has now given me a join button, so if you'd like to support me in that way, that would also be greatly appreciated. Thanks again.